Orlando, the stage adaptation of Virginia Woolf's novel by award-winning playwright Sarah Ruhl, is a witty, clever, gender-bending, period-hopping play, according to New York Magazine. Preserving Woolf's vital ideas and lyrical tone, Ruhl brings to the stage the life of an Elizabethan nobleman who's magically transformed into an immortal woman. Today, I'm joined by Orlando's director, Jeff Casazza, and lead actress, Heather Moser. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
You know, I think a lot of people are very familiar with the author, Virginia Woolf.
Absolutely.
But Orlando is a little bit departure for her from a lot of things. So, you know, let's talk about that. What are those differences from what people usually think of with her work?
Well, I think overall, when we think of Virginia Woolf, we think of death and all of these horrible things happening and all of the dark, dismal aspects of life. And Virginia Woolf, when she wrote Orlando, this is a complete departure of that. It's more of a celebration of life. It's kind of it has a fantastical fantasy aspect of it. It's much more humorous, and death plays absolutely no part in it.
That's refreshing. So tell me, what is Orlando about? What is the storyline?
That's a good question. It follows Orlando, played by Heather, and it starts in the Elizabethan age, and it follows her life, the choices that she makes, or the choices that he makes in that situation. And then as his life is progressing, things change because of society, because of time. So while time is going by, Orlando doesn't age, or ages much more slowly than everyone else. So as we go into the 17th century, Orlando's only a little bit older as time passes. So with each century, he's gaining just a little bit of age.
But he's getting wiser.
Maybe.
Sure. Yeah.
Maybe.
We'll have to find out about that. So Heather, this is your honors project. You know, first of all, what is an honors project? What does that mean? I mean, there are people out there who probably have never ever heard that term.
It's a good question. Basically, I am attempting to complete the honors certificate here at IPFW, and one of the requirements, aside from having to take, I believe it's like 18 credit hours of honors classes, I have to do an honors project, an overall kind of thing that summarizes my area of study, and so I decided to choose Orlando. And basically what I kind of broke it into 3 parts. First part was writing a research paper about Virginia Woolf and her life, and kind of using that research to create the character of Orlando and base my choices on that. And then I also had to give a presentation to the rest of the cast so that they could have that information as well to develop their own characters. And then the final part of it is actually portraying the character of Orlando in the show.
So you have got lots of hats to wear.
Oh, a little bit.
So, you know, when I'm, reading this bit about it's a gender bender, period hopping play, you know, the thing that is most fascinating to me is that Orlando starts as a man and becomes a woman. You know, how does that happen?
Come see the show, I guess.
Yeah, well.
Well, I mean, it's very similar to what happens in the story or in the novel. Orlando spends this much of his life as a man, and the centuries are generally changing at transformative times in his life as well, where there's an area of stress or something's happening, and then the century moves forward and he ages a little bit. And in the middle of the book, there's a number of stressful things that are happening, and he goes to sleep, and he won't wake up. And 7 days later, wakes up and is magically a woman. So Virginia Woolf never goes into the aspects of how, which plays, I think, into the fantastical elements of the story that goes against most of her other work.
Well, and you know, these fantastical elements, they're actually kind of based on Virginia Woolf's real life.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you know, talk to me a little bit about that, and you know how those characters are, you know, real people to her, and how she wrote this book.
Well, basically, Virginia Woolf put a lot of her life into a lot of her writing, but for this particular story, she wrote it more as a love poem to Vida Sackville West, which she was having an affair at the time, and so basically, she's talking about the roles of society and the roles of men and women in society and what determines them, and also about how Vida because she was a woman at that time, could not inherit her estate, and so lost it simply because of her gender. And so that played an effect in Virginia's writing of the story, and kind of giving Vida a chance to live life as a man. But then also she includes, like, the character of Marmaduke is represents Harold Nicholson, which is Vida's actual husband. The role of the Archduke/Archduchess is also a man with whom Vida had previously dated, and she actually rejected his proposal, which is also seen in the show. And then the character of Sasha is thought to be Violet Trefusis, who also had an affair with Vida as well. So there's a lot of different characters that it's all over the place. But a lot of characters do actually have some representation of real people in real life. So.
Well, and this was written as a book, but it's been adapted, you know, into the play. So does the play differ a lot from the book, or what kind of changes were made?
It's actually really interesting on how well Sarah Roll, she basically just lifted certain lines that Virginia Woolf just right out of the book and just inserted them into a condensed version so that you could see it in a much more shorter amount of time. But literally, most of the lines are word for word. There's a few little bits in here that that she crafts that is very similar to Virginia's writing, so you really can't tell the difference. But most of it is literally word for word from the novel. So.
Is that unusual to have an adaptation be that true to a book?
I think they're all different in what happens, and I think Sarah was very interested in the style in which Virginia Woolf wrote, and I think that's why she did what she did, because the narrator of the novel is very odd in how he or she or whoever that is telling us about Orlando, and so that character sometimes is a bit, if it's his character, I call it a character because it feels like it, but sometimes is goofy, sometimes is clueless, sometimes seems to be guiding Orlando, sometimes seems to be led by Orlando, and that's what happens in the play. So there's an ensemble of actors, so the entire cast is on stage for virtually the entire play, sharing this story with the audience, and so it allows these actors to play those different aspects of the narrator that are in the book.
You know, and one of the other fascinating things about this is going through all these centuries. You know, that's such an integral part of this story. You know, without like giving any spoilers or anything, can you kind of guide me through the centuries? You know, what goes on with Orlando, his life?
Everything.
Yeah.
It starts in the Elizabethan age, and it basically takes place all the way up into the present moment. And so he has a lot of love affairs, he meets a lot of different people, has a lot of life experiences, and throughout this whole time he/she is also trying to write this poem that you see come up over and over again throughout his lifetime. And the poem actually reflects Vida's own poem called The Land, but in the play it's called The Oak Tree, so it's kind of a neat little tie into Virginia Woolf's life. So.
Well,
and I think it also goes, I mean, it's interesting because it parallels Orlando, but it's Orlando dealing in the world as well. So as Heather was talking about the society and what society does to the gender roles, it's also, there were so few people in the world in the Elizabethan age versus the 7 billion that we have now. So life was on a grander scale because there was so much space in the Elizabethan age, and now everything is so cramped. And so Orlando grew up in this space where he could really do virtually anything and go anywhere. And now we can still do that, but it's on a much smaller scale. So as Orlando is getting older, the world is getting smaller. And I think that's very clear in the play as well as the novel.
Well, and one of the challenges I would think would be of going through all these centuries is the costumes. So let's talk a little bit about the costumes. We've got some drawings that we can show. But tell me about how these were developed and how you go about crossing all these centuries. It must mean a lot more costume work.
It does.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Orlando changes a lot, but the entire cast changes a lot because the cast, while they are playing these narrators, are also playing all of the other characters in the play. And so we have a number of design meetings that happen before we even cast the show, and then we continue that after it's cast because now we know which actors are playing which roles, and that really aids the costume designer in creating the look of not only the show, but the look of each character, because then she can design the show with that in mind. And so and also the difficulty of this play is that it has to be fluid. So it's constantly moving, so we can't go off stage and take 5 minutes and change all of these clothes.
Right.
So costume changes,
About 10
I have
seconds.
to stage it in a way so that people can go off seamlessly, change clothes, and then be able to make an entrance. And then also there's times when Heather actually changes clothes on stage, or other characters change clothes on stage because of that fluidity that's required
There
by
must be
the
little
script.
layers in the
So
clothes,
it's
yeah.
layers, but we have there's a neutral, not a neutral, but
kind of a
there's a
base.
base costume
I see.
that then things can be added and
into, yeah.
subtracted from, so that we can get the idea of the Elizabethan age, the 17th century, the 18th, 19th, and up to today,
So you know where you are by,
Yeah.
by what they're wearing.
and what we say.
The costumes were designed at IPFW by faculty
Yes,
member,
by Jeannie Pendleton.
and so she designed those, but they were really they were crafted by the students.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, all of the costumes are built by students in our costume shop, and what's really fascinating by what Jeannie does with if there are students who are in the show who are also working with her, those students actually build their costumes. So they're actually taking the designs from Jeannie, who designed it, and then she's also the costume shop supervisor, so she is guiding them through the process of building the costumes that she designed. And so the students have a very active role in what they're doing.
So tell me about the cast in this production. How many? Who are they?
We have 9. We have, and it varies from all years. We have a number of freshmen, so new students to IPFW, and then we have also graduating seniors like Heather and Kirsten. Kirsten, both of them you've seen in a number of shows, and then we have 1 alumni from our program as well. So, or like alumnus, I guess I should say. So it's exciting to have this wide variety of talent and experience, and all of them working together to create this exciting story, and they do a marvelous job. It's a lot of fun just to see them on stage creating all of these stories.
Oh, I can't wait to see it. That's going to be so much fun. So let's just kind of do again when and where, all the details.
Well, it opens on next Friday,
Okay.
so a week
April-
from tomorrow,
April 12th.
April
Okay.
12th.
Runs Friday and Saturday of next week, and then the following week it runs Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Okay.
So we close on the 21st.
So the IPFW box office, you can call. It's 481-6555 and
Yeah,
get your tickets.
absolutely.
Well, thank you both so much for
Thank
being
you.
here.
Thank you.
I'm Melinda Haynes with the IPFW College of Visual and Performing Arts. Please join us next time on Arts Weekly when we'll learn about the electrifying dance of Kegwin and Company, presented by Fort Wayne Dance Collective, April 13th. Then we'll chat with John O'Connell and Dr. Vijay Chilikamari about IPFW and Shruti's Maestros in Concert Indian Performance Series, April 14th. For up-to-the-minute arts updates, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, and be sure to join us here live Thursday evenings at 7:30 on PBS 39. Thank you for watching.
The preceding program on PBS 39 was made possible in part by
Excellence lives here in northeastern Indiana. It's reflected in more than 200 nationally recognized degrees. It drives our Division I sports. It's alive in our campus life. Excellence has a name, IPFW. Around our campus, around the country, around the world. Excellence lives here. Indiana University, Purdue University, Fort Wayne. One university, 2 great names.